Welcome. I'm pleased that you were able to locate the recorded lecture tab in Blackboard and to access this week 1 lecture and being able to hear it. It's definitely steps in the right direction. Today's lecture will be quite short, but we will cover 3 basic areas. We'll do some highlights of the syllabus, though I assume you've already read the syllabus. It's really pretty important each week that you read the materials before you move on to the listening to the recorded lecture, because often I'll be making reference to the materials that you were to have read. And if you haven't done so, you really won't get too much out of the lectures. Next, we'll talk about the elements of fiction. If you look at the syllabus, you see that each week for the foreseeable future we're going to be focusing on each of the elements. But today what I'd like to do is give you an overview so you feel comfortable with the terms and then be more familiar with them when we begin our in-depth investigations. And then finally I'll do a brief recap of the assigned readings, just touching on some of the high points. Again, since you've read them already, it will be much easier to follow. An important part of the syllabus I would like to share with you is item 3 regarding the instructor contact information. For those of you who live in the Kenai-Soldotna area, it will be easy for you to contact me by phone. It's a local call, 262-0321. However, if you live outside of the Kenai-Soldotna area and you want to talk by telephone, I suggest you call the toll-free switchboard number here at KPC, 877-262-0330. When the person comes on the line to help you, simply ask to be transferred to my office line and we'll be able to speak without having to run up toll charges. I've heard from many of you already through the message system in Blackboard. Thank you very much. Just a couple of reminders when you do send messages. Be sure on the to line that you click Janice High Instructor. I also have a Janice High Student account. You don't want to send messages there because that's just a dummy account, if you will. And you need to click Instructor to make sure I get it. In the compose message subject box, be sure to put your name as well as the topic of your message. Your name and then what the topic is. Be sure to stick with one topic in the message because I file them based on what topic you were addressing. So if you have 2 or 3 topics, I guess you'd have to put all 2 or 3 in the subject line or do a separate email or message for each of the topics. In the body box, when you were initiating the dialogue, please do begin with a suitable salutation, such as "Hello, Professor Hi." It's just a courtesy thing rather than just listing your question and then click send. You want to have an engagement with the people with whom you are corresponding. If you put your name at the end of your message as well. When you're all ready, click submit. That will go into my inbox and I will check messages in Blackboard twice a day throughout the week, Monday through Friday, and you should receive my response to your message also through the message box, usually within 1 day, though on weekends, of course, that's going to be longer. You also see in the grade section of the syllabus that there are 3 basic areas on which you will be evaluated, and you can see the points and percentage value for each. We should come up with about 200 points in the course of the semester. That always varies a little bit, but the percentages are always the same, so it doesn't really matter. Generally, I try to follow the same routine every week in what I ask you to do, and of course you plan your time accordingly. This is not a synchronous class, but the order in which we do things is important. As I noted earlier, first you need to complete the reading assignments, then listen to the recorded lecture. We might try playing with the Illuminate Live session as a means of recorded lecture, and if you take part in it while I'm recording it, while we're doing it live, I'll give you some extra credit for that because it's much nicer to be having 2, 3, 4 voices engaged in a conversation rather than one person lecturing. The third item is activity assessment which are based on the reading in the lecture, and after that, after you've done the first 3 items, you're then ready to post on the discussion board. Though you won't be asked every time to do an original post and a response, you'll generally be doing one or the other. In this week, however, you are asked to do both. And the deadline for posting an original post is Wednesday at midnight, and the deadline for posting a response to someone else's is midnight of Friday. Starting next week, we'll begin work on essays, so it's something you needn't worry about this time. Item 20 of the syllabus is a chronological breakdown of what we'll be doing throughout the semester, and I also will post this each week in the Blackboard announcements section, so you get a lot of redundancy, so you always know what's going on either from one source or another. As I mentioned, we'll be dealing with each of the elements of fiction at some length in the course of the semester, but let's take a really brief look at them now just so you become familiar with the terms. The plot of a story, what happens? The setting of a story, where it takes place, and when it takes place. Setting, where and when. The point of view, if a story is written from the first person point of view, it would be, I went to the lake, I jumped in, I swam away. Notice the use of the first person nominative case. If you use the third person point of view, you would say, she went to the river, she jumped in, she swam away. The third person personal pronoun. Symbolism is when one thing stands for something else. It's an icon. It represents something else. The theme is the overall message. It's not a moral. Theme is more sophisticated than moral, and we'll be dealing with it. Style, tone, and irony, those are the subtexts, if you will. The deeper meanings. The tone is the attitude. The style is the arrangement of the words and the paragraphs. And the irony is a special kind of humor sometimes, but it's a second meaning beyond the literal text. What you see in parentheses there are the page numbers in the textbook that provide the beginning of the longer discussions of each of these elements, though we will be going over them in great detail in the weeks to come. So you were asked to read The Story of an Hour by Kate Chopin, which began on page 15 and ran all the way to page 16. A very short story. However, it's incredibly rich in so many ways. The elements, what happened in the story? Where does it take place? When does it take place? What is the point of view? At this point, you probably could already apply those elements to this story. And next week, we're going to examine this story in terms of literary theory. And thank goodness our textbook, in its discussion and explanation of the various critical approaches, or theory, they refer specifically to the Story of an Hour as an example. It makes our task so much easier. And now let's take a look at what's still to come. The other tasks to complete for this week is, first of all, the assessment activity. That's a little quiz on the readings and the lecture, and you will find that in Blackboard. Just click the Course Materials tab and you will see Week 1 assessment. Secondly, if you've not already done so, you'll want to make your initial posting to the discussion board, and this should be done before midnight Wednesday. Remember, what you were asked to do is focus your introduction on literature, well, on stories, the movies you like, the TV shows you like, the books you like. So that should be the focus of your introduction. And then before Friday at midnight, you'll want to read the posts of your classmates on discussion board, and then select at least one person to respond to. And that, of course, can be fairly brief. Maybe you share favorite books. Maybe you want to know something more about their favorite TV show. I don't know. But let's get a dialogue going so we can develop a sense of community. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you on Week 1. And please do feel free to contact me by phone, email, during the office hours. If you'd like, we could set up an e-live session, or if you're in the area, you can stop by. Thanks very much.